Hello there guys, welcome back to the show. This is my team selector ahead of the game tomorrow night against Middlesbrough in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. Chelsea within touching distance of another trip to Wembley and the potential of Mauricio Pochettino lifting the first piece of silverware available to any English club this season. So it's a big game, it really is. And even though Chelsea have been handed a very favourable draw, as we saw on Saturday and as we'll get into in this preview, that doesn't make it a foregone conclusion, especially with this Chelsea team, even though they did handle Saturday in the end very well. But we'll get into the team news, the injury news. Is Christopher Nkunku fit or not? Andre Santos, the search for a new striker in January in the window, and then we'll look at Middlesbrough and then I'll give you my predicted 11. Let's start off as we usually do on these previews with Mauricio Pochettino's press conference. So in terms of injury news, part of this is what Pochettino said in his own press conference, but also what Chelsea released on their kind of usual injury update pre-game. Badiashile is back in training, Chilwell is in training, Chukwuemeka is in training, but Nkunku is undergoing medical assessment, and then Pochettino confirmed pre-game in that press conference that Nkunku will not be involved against Middlesbrough tomorrow night. And I'm not entirely surprised. I did my news show yesterday where we were speaking about this issue and looking back at the quotes that Pochettino gave about Nkunku after Preston. We did get from Fabrice Hawkins a slight bit of optimism that Nkunku might just be fine for this game and then potentially Fulham. Now he's been ruled out of this one, and the word and kind of the sentiment behind what Pochettino was saying was it's all about caution. They are not going to rush Nkunku back. So it's kind of hard to know how long he'll be out for. I always feel a little bit fearful of these type of injuries because they maybe can drag on and you may not have a clear end in sight. But maybe, and we really, really hope and pray that by Saturday, or at least by Friday when Pochettino does his pre-match press conference, then for Fulham, he'll be available. But he's not available tomorrow night. And then, of course, Chalobah, Cucurella, Fofana, James, Lavia and Sanchez are also all out. He was also asked about the striker, the potential search for a striker in the January window. He was very diplomatic, as you'd probably suspect. Armando Broja, he cited his availability and his strength. He also cited how Cole Palmer could potentially play in a centre-forward role, which he has briefly this season and actually quite well in that aspect as on top of that. So Chelsea's pursuit of a striker, non-pursuit of a striker, will probably go on for as long as the window is open. Whether Chelsea actually act in that aspect, it's still kind of hard to know at the moment. It doesn't feel that concrete to me based on reports I've been reading, but that may change very quickly. And then also Andre Santos, he said and confirmed what we knew already, that Andre Santos would be leaving to join up with Brazil for the rest of this month. And it does leave him in an interesting situation. I mean, Chelsea didn't play him at all on Saturday, so he's still eligible to go out on loan, which could still happen. But it's a little bit weird if he goes out on loan and he's still not kind of available in the country, and that future is being... It's not that his future can't be decided and he can't be involved in those discussions, obviously. But I'm not sure. I wonder if it will be a case of him going to Brazil may actually sway him staying at Chelsea for the rest of the season. Let me know your opinions on that in the comments below. But another thing Pochettino spoke about was obviously Middlesbrough. And Middlesbrough, narrowly lost to Aston Villa at the weekend. And they have changed and altered their system. That was another thing Pochettino referred to. They're 12th in the Championship. I think the most known thing about Middlesbrough in the past 2 seasons is, of course, the addition of Michael Carrick as head coach and all of his history as a Premier League player. They aren't doing as well as they did last year. I mean, they finished 4th in the Championship last season, which was a very high ending for them in that league. But this year it has gone down. And if you look at their goal scorers, I mean, all 3 of their top goal scorers, Latelav, Coburn and Greenwood, are all on 5 goals. So they're not prolific goal scorers. Matt Crooks is their most creative so far with assists. But Chelsea and Middlesbrough do share some similarities in, I guess, their league positioning in a certain way, but then also XG and big chances missed. In terms of XG, Middlesbrough are actually 4th in the Championship so far this season. They are top, just like Chelsea in the Premier League, for big chances missed. So Carrick and Pochettino may have some similar issues in terms of frustrations over finishing chances. So what that tells you is, and from a Middlesbrough point of view and what Chelsea have to be aware of, I don't think they're like Preston. I think they're a better side than Preston. Maybe the numbers aren't showing it so far this year, but they have a better quality of player in the final third. And also, quite clearly, evidently, the big thing is here, it's away from home first. The Riverside Stadium, Chelsea went there in the FA Cup a couple of years ago. It will be an intimidating atmosphere midweek, and they will do their best to make it that. And I think that the idea that Chelsea can just coast through this game like they did against Preston is a dangerous recipe. I mean, it really is for disaster, even though this is over 2 legs, which, you back a team with the quality of Chelsea over 2 legs to beat a team like Middlesbrough, especially the fact that Chelsea do have the second leg at Stamford Bridge. But at the same time, still very important that Chelsea do not start off sluggish, do not get complacent. These are all evident things, and I hope that actually the atmosphere turns on Chelsea in that aspect rather than it being at home and it's kind of Chelsea just once again going through the motions, because I don't think they'll get away with it. But the XG conceded for Middlesbrough, even though I don't suspect they'll be as open in this game, is 17th in the Championship, so they do concede high quality chances, more than where they are kind of in the league table. So I think Chelsea, as we saw against Preston, once that intensity and that quality actually starts to show, it doesn't take a lot to create those high quality chances. It's just about making sure that mentality is absolutely spot on. They've started with a 4-2-3-1 over the weekend. They have switched different systems. I think, again, it's kind of going to be forced on Carrick to sit a little bit deeper and look to hit on transition, even if he may want a little bit more of the ball. I think that's just the reality of this mismatch, or just kind of the reality of facing a Premier League team. It's the same with Aston Villa at the weekend. Going into Chelsea's starting lineup, I actually don't think it's that difficult to predict, and I may be proven very wrong with some surprises, but given this is a very big game, I think it's going to be approached like a very big game, because it should be, by Pochettino. This may disappoint some people in certain aspects, but I do think it will look like a team that you have seen very recently in the Premier League. I don't think it's going to shock many people. The weekend gave some players a boost, but I don't think there was anything radical that happened at the weekend that means that there's going to have to be this major change. And because of injuries to certain players, again, Pochettino is kind of forced in this aspect. Alfie Gilchrist, sure, I would be quite excited to see him start this game, but I just can't see it happening personally. I just, looking at the track record and the evidence in front of me with what Pochettino has gone for regularly this season, I think it's more likely that you see those regulars in the first team for this game. And maybe if Chelsea could get themselves in a favourable position heading into the second leg, then you may see the likes of Gilchrist and others make their way into minutes. But here we go. So Petrovic in goal. Sanchez was mentioned in the press conference, but whenever he returns for me, Petrovic at the moment is a competent number one. So he's going to stay as that, obviously, at the current moment. The back four, Malo Gusto, we gave him tons of credit over the weekend for his involvement in the first goal. He has been a really good signing for Chelsea, and hopefully he can continue that good form into the new year and for the rest of this season. Axel Disasi, I did give some criticism to. I'm not sure if Benoit Badiashile is going to be that ready to go straight into first team action. Again, this is one where you may see Badiashile return if he is very close and he is in first team training. I don't think Disasi is performing anywhere close to, brilliant at the moment. He looked complacent at the weekend. He looked unsure. He needs to be a lot better alongside Thiago Silva, who, of course, I think has had a couple of good performances. He was important defensively against Luton and offensively against Preston. He scores the second goal from a corner. Levi Colwell will go back to left back. I mean, Ian Maatson is on his way to Borussia Dortmund, it looks like, on loan. Ben Chilwell, again, we may see him in the squad. I think it'd be lovely to see him in the squad and then maybe make a sub appearance later on in the game. But that's another player I really want Chelsea to be careful with. So again, I know people get frustrated, but I think Colwell, from a defensive point of view, will be sent back to left back. I just think that's obvious. Enzo and Caicedo. Enzo scoring a goal at the weekend. Hopefully he can follow that up with another influential display here. And hopefully from a tactical point of view, as many people have been crying literally all season, can we see Enzo in a deeper position and actually you switch the positioning, starting positioning in general, where Caicedo is more harassing, more getting forward, rather than Enzo, and Enzo sits deeper. He is the one that's going to thread those passes from deep and hopefully unleash some players further up the pitch. I think that is in itself a big question. Then we get into the three behind the striker, and in some ways I think it is slightly difficult because there are some players in here who have been in good form recently. Noni Madueke for me should be starting this game. I've just been so excited by watching Noni. Even coming off the bench, he looked very direct and aggressive in a game that was effectively done by the time he was introduced, but he looked like he wanted to make a big impact on that game. And the fact that he scored 2 goals in his last 2 starts should probably, for me, validate him starting here. But then, of course, you have Cole Palmer. You have to start him. Raheem Sterling, to all of... I think this is the big question for this preview for me, is Raheem Sterling scores goals. He has pretty consistently this season, but his performance level, I don't think, has been as good as Cole Palmer. And we're not starting a big game without Conor Gallagher. It's just not happening. So for me, I think Conor Gallagher goes in the place of Raheem Sterling. And, I know some people may disagree with that because I constantly talk about output on this show. And I think that it's more likely that Madueke sits on the bench and Gallagher is there, and then it's Sterling on either the left or the right, whether this is a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-2-2-2. I think that's more likely. That's kind of my gut instinct. I think I'd prefer to see Madueke start over Raheem Sterling because I think just generally the level of performance from Madueke in recent weeks has been higher than Raheem Sterling. That's just my opinion. So Cole Palmer obviously starts as well. And then up top, the man who scored the opener at the weekend, Armando Broja. Because there's no Nkunku, yeah, sure, Palmer could play here. There's another, if you wanted to play Sterling, Madueke and Gallagher behind Cole Palmer, we could see that happen. But I do think you want a physical presence, and I think that Armando Broja will give you that. And hopefully it won't take us as long to try and find him as a tall number 9 effectively. I mean, the fact that it took us till after the halftime break to start to think, actually, if we swing some crosses in, maybe he'll be influential in that aspect rather than constantly looking to play to his feet. Maybe we'll do that from an earlier period at the Riverside tomorrow night. So that's my starting 11. As ever, please do give me yours in the comments below. Give me your thoughts and feelings ahead of this game. Follow me across the socials at SonOfChelsea. I will be going live from my rational perspective post the game tomorrow night, the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. So make sure you're staying tuned for that. Turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of the uploads. Thank you for listening on the podcast as well. And I'll see you again very soon. All the best.